Hey everyone, I'm Kate Kennedy and I'm here with day 73 of 100 Days of Kane, PA. And I know so many of you have seen the sunflower fields on Greendale Road over the years, gotten many beautiful pictures taken there. And today Dave Conklin is going to share the story behind that, as well as a few other stories of things that he's done and things coming in the future. So you're in for a really good story time today with Dave Conklin. I'm going to flip you around and we're going to come on over and say hello. Hi Dave, how are you?
Good, Kate, how are you?
Good. Hey, thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome.
We're really excited to hear all of these great stories you have to share. So let's first start by kind of establishing that you were born and raised in Kane.
Yep, I was born in 1972 here in Kane, delivered by Dr. Sicker,
Yay!
amongst many thousand others.
Yes.
And and I've lived here ever since. For the exception, the only time I left was to go to college, I guess, for 4.5 years. But other than that, I've stayed in Kane.
So when did you graduate high school from Kane?
1990.
All right, and then you went to college. Where did you go?
I went to Penn State University, studied agriculture science and ornamental horticulture.
Okay, and can you tell us about like when you graduated and what happened next?
I graduated in '94. I spent 4.5 years at Penn State. I got a degree in ag science as well as ornamental horticulture. I was working on some landscape architecture work, which I would have had to stay, probably another 2 years to quote unquote, I guess, get your stamp. They would say, at that time, Bob Arnold, who had owned Kane Lawn and Garden, was about ready to retire. Of course, and he hasn't retired. Bob's in his 80s and he still works every day. God bless him. But he was ready to sell the business, and he talked to me about it, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to sell this business. I'd like to sell it to you, but I'm going to sell it. So, if you want to make a decision on that." So I kind of rushed. I took 24 credits my last semester. Which was just pure heck.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And then inevitably I moved back to Kane.
Okay, so did you work for Kane Lawn and Garden growing up?
Yeah, I worked for Bob for a number of years, all through going to Penn State. He was a great mentor to me, and I'd learned a lot. I've been doing this type of work ever since I was a kid. So it was when I originally decided to go to Penn State, I wanted to major in ag science just because it gave me a lot of free electives to do, just to study a broad range of different portions of agriculture science. So that's why I majored in ag science. I already knew how to prune trees and had a pretty good concept of the landscape construction industry via my work with Bob and working with my dad my whole life, and so I just I just wanted to focus on just getting a fulfilling education.
Yeah, more well-rounded.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
You
And
bet.
so when it came time for Bob to sell, he let you know and you decided, hey, yeah, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I came home a lot in when I went to Penn State. Penn State's a great place. I love it. I love to visit there, but I'm just kind of a hometown person, so I didn't spend a lot of weekends down there. I'd come home and woodwork. I figured, sooner or later I'm going to own a house, so I used to dust up my mom and dad's basement every weekend and gather up lumber from friends and whoever and build things. And it was great because it taught me a lot about construction and how to build things and how things work and how a finished product ends up, so.
That's awesome. Lots of hands-on learning for you.
Yeah.
So you buy Kane Lawn and Garden. What was that like? What was it like back then?
Well, I was only 22 years old, so it was quite an experience. I had a really good concept of landscape architecture, of horticulture, agriculture in general, but didn't have the first clue about business. But Bob helped me through that. My parents helped me through it, and I lived in the basement of my mom and dad's house for the first 5 years, and I just worked my butt off. Bob stayed on working, he said part-time, which I still wonder when his part-time's ever gonna expire. But Bob stayed on with me and helped me, in the business end. I'd done an internship with Kane Lawn and Garden in Kane here, the 4th year I was in college. And it was interesting because it was kind of like a contest, because the at that time, the Department of Agriculture, the State Department of Agriculture, had offered a scholarship program where they were going to pick 5 people within the state of Pennsylvania, and if you won the scholarship via the internship that you did, they would assist in paying your school loans back. So I thought, geez, that'd be kind of cool. So we did the internship here in Kane. It was really interesting. We had some gentlemen, some ag scientist type urban forester, ag science people from Swaziland come here,
Awesome.
which was really cool because a lot of people from Kane, never really recognized, foreign people have you, walking around and going to our job sites and stuff. It was so cool. But they were from, I think it was an underdeveloped area in Africa, and these guys were just great. And they were just coming to see, what do we do every day? How can they engage beautification, back from where they're at? But
That's so cool.
long story short, we did the internship, and I applied for the scholarship, and I won it. And you didn't necessarily have to be from Penn State to win it. You just had to be, in a state environmental science or ag program. But or an education, come from an education entity, a college. But the deal was you'd have to stay in Pennsylvania for 10 years, as well as you'd have to practice 40 hours a week in your profession. So I think at that time there was a lot of people, professionals in agriculture in general, that were leaving the state. And I think it was a way of the state at that time and that administration of trying to capture a few people and keep them here in PA.
And you wanted to come home anyway. So
Yeah,
it worked out perfectly.
I wanted to come home. I had some great job opportunities. One at Walt Disney World in Florida, which was awesome, and another, some other ones. But I guess this is just home. So
You knew you wanted to come back.
yeah, it just worked out.
How many employees, how many trucks did you have when you first started?
I think we had 3 trucks. Bob busted his butt, but you got to understand, back in that day, a landscape, 25, 30 years ago, Bob started at 1970. There wasn't that big of a demand for landscaping, as well as we live in, I shouldn't say a suppressed area, but a low population area. So, Bob worked his butt off, boy, and we had 3-4 employees, and Bob was there every day. I mean, that's how I think I learned how to stay with the crews, and not get diverted, because it's important. But so we had a few trucks and 3 or 4 employees, and we've grown it to now, I think we have maybe 36 trucks. We run about 12 crews a day, up to 40 people.
Yeah, awesome. And Bob laid a huge foundation for you.
You bet.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you still are doing that work, but in addition to that, the agricultural part of you is going strong.
Yeah.
And one of the most notable things around here has been the sunflower field.
Yep.
So can you kind of talk about what prompted that and, what it's doing for you?
Yeah, so a childhood friend I grew up with, one of my best friends, Dan Shields, and I, decided one crazy day that we were going to start rejuvenating agriculture, and amongst the countryside, in this area. So we just started beating on doors and just asking people, hey, what are you doing with your fields? And everyone was really receptive. The landowners have been just great, with this whole thing. And it's a no-brainer. I mean, it's you're going to brush hog your field or have viable agriculture. Viable agriculture is just wonderful for a lot of things, and I could go on and on and on with the whole interview of why agriculture is important. But the bottom line is the landowners and basically in Elk and McKean County, we're supportive of our project to start rejuvenating agriculture, and that's what we did, and we've busted our butts. I mean, weekends, nights, there's times we'd got a green bean contract and had to meet a deadline. Dan planted all night, planted for almost 24 hours, and our harvesting is the same way. It's a crazy endeavor, and sometimes we even ask ourselves why. But at the end of the day, somebody needs to do it. It's important that agriculture is important, and if you look at our world population of 6 or so, don't quote me to the statistic, but a good plenty bunch of people in this world. You know, there's not enough acres of agriculture land to sustain, you know, human life by 2050. So something has to happen, and I truly believe that. You know, ag science majors and colleges are going to be as popular as the computer science wave and the engineering wave and the business, you know, management wave. But somehow we have to figure out a way that, you know, our youth is interested in agriculture as well as can make a living, and that's the challenge right now. You know, is you know, you work you know 80 hours a week for little to no pay, you know. So how can we change that, you know? And we certainly, Dan and I certainly can't, you know, impact that much, but what we're doing has brought a significant impact of wildlife back to our area. You know, I've worked at camps my whole life. People used to come to camps all over, and it just little by little, I would see how I'd get less calls because people want an apple tree planted in their backyard, or they want a little fire ring built, you know, when they come up. You know, our area is full of camps of people that travel from all over the place to the Allegheny National Forest or this area and come and relax and hang out, you know. But for a while there wasn't, a lot of them were hunting camps, and there wasn't much around here to hunt. You know, so
and you're seeing the animals and the wildlife come back.
Oh
too.
yeah, tenfold. Yeah. And you know, if Dan and I, we rejuvenated about 700 acres of agriculture, people have followed suit. The ag operators that were in business and have, you know, have extra land, they started developing more land, you know, and so it was kind of like a domino effect. And there's probably 1,500 acres of viable, you know, agriculture in our area now. And there's huge big bucks, you know, there's bear and turkey and grouse and pheasants and woodcock and just all kinds of good flora and fauna that's good for the environment, and it's good for outdoorsmen, of course. And at the end of the day, there's good ground here that we can grow food on, and I truly believe that it's going to be needed.
So about 700 acres you and Dan rejuvenated, and can you talk about how you're continuing to partner with Penn State on some of that land?
Well, yeah, we do a lot of, you know, we've done a lot of field trial work, you know, with County Conservation District. We've done field trial work with Penn State on different projects. So the sunflowers, for example, was just kind of a personal field trial. You know, a field trial's it's a lab test in a field. You know, you're basically studying the process from beginning to end, and then, you know, we brought a rye here from Germany via some work with Sam Cummings and CJ Spirits. Tom and Sam, you know, started that great distillery, and they support us 100%. They buy all their grain that they produce. I mean, that place is really cool, especially when you look at that place is truly a farm to glass, you know, farm to table from this area, you know. And we did a field trial, which they were kind of the lab. We brought a rye in from Germany and grew it, kind of Americanized it, have you, and then that's what CJ's make their rock soft vodka from.
That's so cool. I didn't realize that. Yeah. And so the sunflowers, you said, was kind of a field study as well, but it ended up providing this beautiful place for people to come and just find so much joy in. So how many acres did you plant? How many sunflowers did you plant?
I think we planted maybe a half to 1 acre at Dan and Missy's house by Lance Corners, and you know, holy cow, we couldn't believe the. I mean, I had an idea in my mind, in the back of my head, but just kind of kept my mouth shut about it. But you know, so we just tried some, and Dan and I were going to look at some fields one day, and there's like 2 cars parked in the middle of his driveway, and cars pull off the edge of the road, and there's somebody carrying sunflowers to their trunk. And I said to Dan, "Oh my God, they're blocking your driveway, what the heck?" And he's like, "I know, and they're taking the flowers." I said, "I know." I said, "What do you want to do?" He's like, "Just drive around them." You know, so we left and went off on our work for the evening, you know, on the farms. And you know, little by little, we've grew, more acres and more acres, and done a lot more testing. I was looking for a particular variety of sunflower that would that we could use with an ending goal to distill them. I thought it would be a neat idea if we could come up with a product that has never been produced in the country or in the world. So we developed a product called Sunshine, and it's called SONSHINE, which is defined as a distilled product made from the sunflower plant, only grown and produced in the Pennsylvania Wilds region, particularly Kane, Pennsylvania.
That's awesome. And for those who don't know what the PA Wilds region is, it's 12 and a half counties
Yep.
in northwestern PA primarily.
You got it, yeah.
So that's amazing. So keeping it right here, keeping it local.
Yeah, keeping it local, and and the PA Wilds, I call them the Wilds girls, Tot and Abby and Kristen. They helped culture that. It all started with a job I did at Kristen's house. I was pouring some concrete for her, and as well as doing some work for the borough at the same time. And Kristen was like, "Hey, Dave, how are you? I haven't seen you in years." And I said, "Geez, yeah, Kristen, I haven't seen you either. Where you been?" And just kind of a quick little conversation. And then she showed me what she wanted done, and we got going. And throughout the project, she'd stop in a couple times and say, "What are you doing? What's these sunflowers?" And this and that. I didn't realize she worked for PA Wild. So she literally kind of was the catalyst, I'd have to say, to develop this project, I guess you'd say, and direct it. So she got me with, the director, Ta, Enos, and their other partner, Abby, and it kind of started there, and I knew some people. I introduced them to some people, and they introduced me to some people, and it was kind of a nice partnership. My idea originally was to grow these sunflowers, figure out how to distill them, and then start distilleries. This crazy idea, maybe start distilleries all over the United States. But and I had this cool label, which they didn't like, so they changed my label. But anyhow,
it's for the best, I'm sure.
Yeah. Long story short, it all fit into what I believe in. It all fit into my convictions. It all fit into my passion of this area, trying to stimulate this area. I just didn't know how to do it, and they truly helped with that direction. So, we're building the Wild Sunshine Factory now. My wife and I own a percentage of it, and the rest is private investors. And the Wild Sunshine Factory is far from just a distillery. It'll be an agricultural education entity, where people of all ages can come, and it'll be good for this area. I can guarantee you it'll be good. It'll bring tourism. A lot of people say, "Geez, that's kind of rude. Why would you build something down the road from Sam Cummings?" I said, "Well, and Tom and CJ's, why would you do that?" I thought, they're friends. That's why I'm doing it. This thing is going to support the whole area, and anybody that wants to catch the wave, of bringing people to Kane, whatever entrepreneurial type spirit they have or ambitions they have, we're hoping to provide extra cars, extra wheels and tires going by, your business, going by the town, whatever. And it's a beautiful thing if you think about it. Look at Ellicottville. Ellicottville is such a stimulated area, and it's a quaint little quiet community until they have their events. Those events bring lots of money. They bring people, and those people travel usually with a few bucks in their wallet, and most of the time they're willing to spend them. So
do you have plans for events with Sunshine?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have events. We'll have educational events. The Sunshine Factory will have an interpretation area. You will not walk into the Sunshine Factory unless you're an employee. In fact, maybe we'll just have the employees do it as well, without walking through a first initial interpretation area. And the bottom line in that interpretation area is you're going to figure out that wood doesn't come from Kane Lumber, and food doesn't come from the local grocery stores. It comes from agriculture, and I think, education and awareness, that's what it's all about, and I think the more that we can put that out there, the more that people can absorb it and appreciate it and understand and conceptualize with it. So when you walk into the Sunshine Factory, you'll walk through a interpretation area, an educational area, then you can go to a tasting bar, then you can turn and go back through a gift shop.
How cool. And the thing that's different about you guys and CJ's is there's nowhere else around here that makes a spirit from sunflowers.
No, I have a trademark on Sunshine, and there's a patent in process. So there's one other distillery in Georgia that uses sunflowers to flavor their whiskeys. But right now, via some pretty extensive and expensive legal research, it's the only product like that in the world. So
cool.
and I mean, CJ's, they make great products. They make their vodkas and their gins and stuff. We have no intention of doing any of that stuff. We're going to have our own unique thing. They'll have theirs. And look at the wineries. I mean, people never stop at one winery. They stop at all of them.
Exactly. And that's what I love about Kane. I feel like everyone does really work together.
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
trying to just do the best for the town.
Yeah, and that's what we need to do. Our population's going down, and at the end of the day, a lot of people ask me, what are you doing all this stuff for? Why are you starting all these businesses? What do you, sometimes I don't know, but at the end of the day, I would just love to help be a small little minute part of keeping our kids here. How do we do that? They go and get educated, but then at the end of their education, they leave, So Tosh and I just work every day to try to do good with that and just try to stimulate this area,
Yeah.
And if it's tourism for now, then that's what it's going to be, because we have little industry, but what brings industry? What raises that eyebrow of that individual that says, what, I might just want to move there and start a business there, or a bigger business. Little things turn into big things. So if we can be the plant city, Florida. If Kane, Pennsylvania can. There's an annual strawberry festival my wife and kids and I went to this winter. It's called the Florida Strawberry Festival, the Florida State Strawberry Festival. It's over a strawberry plant. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of economic impact that event has to the local communities. We can do the same thing with sunflower plant. In fact, we're not going to talk about it, we're going to do it.
Sunflower Festival in
That's
Kane,
right.
PA, huh?
That's right. And we, raised awareness with Harrisburg about the whole project. We've invited, several secretaries here. The Secretary of Agriculture, Russell Redding, was here now twice, to talk about what we're up to. We've had Secretary Gavin from DCD, Secretary Dunn from DCNR, as well as Parks and Recreation. So we've raised awareness that this quaint little nowhere town in Pennsylvania is actually a place.
It is doing big things. I wanted to ask this about the sunflower fields. What's the most number, or how many sunflowers do you plant, or what's the largest number that you've planted so far?
Well, you plant them by population. So Dan does the majority of the planting. What we do is we set a population on our planner. It's a fairly high-tech operation. We've integrated a lot of really modern technological practices in the planning. So what will happen is we'll set a population, say, of 26,000 seeds per acre, 28,000 or whatever. The largest field we had was almost 900 and some thousand, but next year we're going to plant 1 million. We're going to have a field that has 1 million sunflowers.
I love that.
Cool.
1 million sunflowers in Kane, PA.
And we don't have many sunflowers this year. 2 reasons. Number one, the grain tower is about full. We need to get the factory up and running. There's a shelf life to that stuff, so we need to get the factory up and running. And what sunflower components that we don't use in the distillery, we will bag. We have a bagging operation already set up. We will bag and sell, our overburden we will sell. But our goal is to commission growers throughout the state PA Wilds region to grow sunflowers for us, because it brings great joy to other communities as well.
Yeah, they're so beautiful, and people will stop by and get their pictures taken, and so next year they'll be back.
Yep. So we had one field, Mike and Vicki Jamerson's we'd planted, and we've had a tough year with the weather, but you know, it was meant to be, and their daughter had their wedding there last weekend, and it just turned out wonderful, and they got married in a sunflower field, which is just really cool.
That's really special. Okay, so is there anything else about the Sunflower Field Sunshine Factory that you wanted to touch on? Because I have another question for you. But
I mean, there's so much. No, I mean, just so everyone understands, it's going to be open to the public, you know, and people of all ages. The distillery end of it's just a part of it. You know, there'll be kind of a welcoming center, and there's a lot of future plans. We're just baby stepping it now. I mean, we're just self-building this. There's some investors that are just kicking butt and helping out. And we're all tradesmen, so we're just kind of doing it ourselves so we can get more bang for our buck, you know, and make this thing big, you know, and maybe big things will come from it.
That's awesome. Okay, and so you are also an outdoorsman. How do you like to spend your, I'm sure, limited downtime?
Yeah, my limited downtime needs to be more time with my wife and my kids, but you know, if we're going to do something, we take a ride in a dirt road, you know, around here. If I'm personally going to recreate, I like to hunt and fish mainly, you know, and like to plant food plots, and like to just basically be in the outdoors for the most part.
And you found a way to take that love of hunting and use it for a good cause. Would you share about the Hunt for a Cure?
Yeah, sure. So 12 years ago, Dale Whaler, a close friend of mine, as well as Dale, has helped facilitate you know, launching the Sunshine Factory. He asked me, he would worked in the powdered metal industry, traveled a lot. He was a CEO of one of the companies, and had heard about this event called Hunting for a Cure that these individuals had started. Just some farmers down in Tennessee, and they were looking for volunteers to come, and he knew that I liked the outdoors and I had a hort ag background. He thought it'd be perfect. That was kind of the model of who they were looking for as guides, you know, not only just a hunting guide, but a guide that could go out and say, you know, here's a sycamore tree, or here's some kind of herbaceous perennial, whatever. So it was give kids an opportunity to experience the outdoors. Not all the kids are sick. Some of them are, but so I went down and did it. It was great, and I've gone ever since. You know, the following couple years I'd went myself. Dale was traveling, and then Steve Dine from Kane started going with me, and then of course Dan started going, and then, you know, John Holt from Kane here, and Mike Jamerson, Scott Smith from St. Mary's, you know, Sean Perry had traveled and filmed with us. In fact, we had a hunt here with the Sportsman Outdoor Group with a friend of ours, and the videographer from South Carolina actually went with us this year and is going to produce an actual film about it, which is really cool.
That is really cool.
Really, really cool. And our wives have gone, and the kids have gone. The kids have really grabbed a hold of this and started fundraising, and the fundraising turned into basically the kids, you know, from nowhere, Kane, PA, you know, 3,000 people winning 2 years in a row the most amount of money raised for St. Jude's. In fact, they were invited last year for a private tour of St. Jude's, and it was just an epic experience, you know, just absolutely wonderful.
Which speaks to both their you know, their hearts to be able to go out and ask, but also the generosity of the community to be willing to give, and they won.
Better believe
That's
it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And
Cool
has anybody from St. Jude's ever made it to Kane?
Yes, actually. So we had one of the kids that from Alabama, we had brought here 2 different years. And in fact, we're working on a little project. Cochran's Andy Lumber had given us a very large tract of land to be able to take kids hunting. And we're actually going to have one of the participants in the St. Jude's event, if healthy enough, from Columbus, Ohio, is actually going to come here in our deer season, our rifle deer season, and hunt with us, you know, which is pretty cool. It's fairly technological. She has a little iPhone, and she controls the scope with her finger, and then she blows into a straw to discharge the firearm.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's pretty
Wow.
cool.
And so
And she just loves the outdoors, and she smiles from ear to ear, and just it's just pretty cool.
And you
Yeah.
help to make that happen here for her.
Yeah,
to
we're
have a
gonna
place
do
to
it here
come
in
to.
Kane.
Yeah, that's awesome, Dave. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, you're a busy guy. Is there anything else that you wanted to share before we wrap up? Anything you didn't get a chance to talk about?
No, I mean it's all good. One comment. We received. We worked really hard, and we applied for that grant, and we received a RACP grant, which is pretty cool for this area, and I think it's going to open up a lot of doors for a lot of good things in our area. It was a painstaking process to apply for it. It's very extremely competitive, but at the same time, the reason we got that grant is because of who we are as a community. I'm confident in that. Harrisburg, quote unquote, has spent money in all over across the board, in grant programs. And I think it's time, and I think we've raised enough awareness, it's time that some of that comes to rural Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
We deserve the same type of living, the same type of benefits that an urban area does. We just don't have the tax base. We don't have that fund. Our city and borough and township administrations don't have huge big pots to pull from to build parks, to improve streets, to do this, to do that, to create some type of tourism, or set the stage for some type of industry to come in. So I think that we'll see more of that. And it's a complicated process. It's an extremely strict regiment, and it's kind of funny. Somebody said, "Geez, you got $500,000 to build that place." I was like, "No, no, not really. We got number one, you have to match it. So if you're going to spend $500,000, or if you're going to get $500,000, you have to spend it, and the spending is very critiqued. There's auditors that come in." But you know what? We're going to go through the thing, and we're going to make it happen. We're going to learn how to do it, and we're going to help other people. Once we get through this thing, we're going to help other people figure out how to apply for grants for themselves and figure out how to utilize it. So we'll be the guinea pig on it. But I truly believe that we have Harrisburg's attention, and we're going to keep it.
That's awesome, Dave. You guys are really paving a way and putting a lot into this community, and I'm really excited to see the end result of the Sunshine Factory.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Is there anything else that you want to share?
No, just great thanks to my family.
Yeah. Yep. You probably couldn't do it without them.
Oh my goodness, my wife is. If my wife isn't a saint already, she will be.
Yes, she is a saint. All right, Dave. Hey, thank you again for your time.
And thank you guys so much for tuning in. I love hearing the stories of agriculture here in Kane. It's great to have an agricultural advocate here, and I know so many of you guys saw the Sunshine Fields and that you've gotten pictures taken, and I think it would be really great to see some of your pictures and just kind of populate the comments of this video with all of those beautiful flowers. So if you have a picture from the sunflower fields, please feel free to put them in the comments below, and thank you again for tuning in today, and we'll see you again tomorrow for day 74.